think there was no idea how to solve it.
Okay.
It's a tough situation at the moment. That was a very clever decision.
Yeah.
So we saved a lot of money.
I think you are one of the best networkers I know.
So we know what the customer needs. We should really attack in the area of innovation.
Yeah.
It's what you said. It's not a race between these two technologies. It's a race for the new technologies. It's hydrogen which comes out of the earth.
Is we can drill, baby, drill, but drill white hydrogen. And then we can really create something big for Europe and Germany out of it.
Absolutely. So everything will be changed.
Hey, I'm Björn from Highfinder. I'm your host of the podcast, The Hydrogen Leader. In this format, we want to inspire future hydrogen leaders. Please do me a favor and subscribe to our channel. If you like the content, it helps a lot to grow the channel. Thank you very much. Welcome, Peter Fröschle, to the video podcast Hydrogen Dialogue. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Björn, to being here and discussing a little bit over the hydrogen and the Arena 2036.
Yes, indeed. And as you know, we want to inspire professionals to become hydrogen leaders, which is why we will tackle in the main 3 areas. We want to speak about leadership. We want to also hear a little bit of personal story, how you managed to grow yourself as a professional. But obviously, you have a lot of insights in the hydrogen economy and in R&D sector, and it would be great if you can share those with us.
I will do this.
So let's kick this off with a very basic question, dear Peter. Who is Peter Fröschle?
Yeah, Peter Fröschle is a hydrogen guy, but this was coming, I would say, not from the beginning on. So it's coming during my work on Mercedes-Benz. So I started in 1994 on Mercedes-Benz in the logistics. And it was a long way to come to the hydrogen in this phase. But the most thing I would say bringing to the hydrogen was doing things what nobody wants to do in a good company. Yes.
We will explore this in detail. And I know your career and we will come to that. What I'm also interested to know is, what are you passionate about as a person, as a professional? Is there something that drives you?
Oh, yes, always. If there's a problem or not, everybody said, oh, we cannot do this, that is not solvable. That's then when I start going in, because that's, I said, it's that we have to solve, we can do. So, and that's what me drives the whole time on the last 20 years.
You have had several leadership roles, both in Daimler and Mercedes, and now you're a managing director. What is your philosophy or your approach in leadership?
Oh, mostly to think positive. I think that is and to love people, because every person is different, and that makes it so interesting to be on this earth and work with everybody. So, and that what me drives through the whole time. So, and bring down a little bit the hectic and sit down and think a little bit over the problems.
Go deeper.
Yeah, and start brainstorming, but not hysterically. So a little bit in a, I would say, situation where everybody is be comfortable in this discussion. And then the most time we get a wonderful solution out of this discussion.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that I know you for more than 15 years, and we from time to time meet, which is great. And obviously we got connected at Daimler. And I don't know if you know that it was you who connected me to the hydrogen economy with a simple call in the year 2010. Do you remember that?
Absolutely, I remember it. We need somebody who has experience in M&A, because we want to bring together a big consortium in pushing the hydrogen forward.
Right, and I think I asked you in that call, why are you calling me? Because by that time, there was no official job description for being a hydrogen lawyer. And I think you recall that you had several pre-calls and they told you to call Björn. And I got interested, obviously.
Absolutely. I do not know who I called on the MAE said. Maybe it was some of your colleagues.
Yeah.
But they said, yes, that's what he said. So call Björn. He has maybe interested in this topic. And then that was the time we started a wonderful business bringing the hydrogen forward.
Exactly, because I happily accepted that responsibility and was on your side for several years, where we tried to build the hydrogen infrastructure in Germany with several projects, right? And I remember that one of the biggest projects that we started working on was H2 Mobility. I recall that I was in negotiations for more than 1.5 years. Do you also remember that time?
Oh, yes, it was a great time because we have from all big companies the best people on board to find the right way to bring forward the hydrogen infrastructure. So, and it makes a lot of fun because to discuss with the best lawyers and M&As from other companies, from all these companies, and bring a wonderful cooperation contract out of this.
Yeah, and for those who are listening to our podcast from international, H2 Mobility is still there. So it's operating the largest network of hydrogen refueling stations in Germany. And I think the main shareholders are Shell, OMV, Total, Linde, Air Liquide, and Daimler. And they even have extended the shareholder base. And I think it's good to see that the work that we started to do some 14, 15 years ago is still there, right? So what I always admired, and I think that this is also something that is part of your DNA, is your networking skill. I think you are one of the best networkers I know. And what I wanted to ask you is whether this is natural talent or whether you are trying to intentionally improve in that, because I think it helps your job currently.
And I think it's not a natural talent. I think I learned it over the years. When I started on Mercedes side to be a project leader, so I have to learn to talk to all people to bring a project forward. And I thought if I completely open in all the discussions, get all the information what I have to all people, that extended or brings the connection between the people forward. So I do not hide any information and ideas because, yes, maybe sometimes you have a lot of fathers of some ideas, but the idea comes. If you hide some ideas, maybe it's yours, but you will never see it on the market.
So you're probably the Warren Buffett in terms of exchange on ideas, because he reads a lot of newspapers, I think for the same reason. And I understand that you have this very open attitude, listening to people, which helps you then to connect the thinking, right?
Absolutely. That's very important to bring people together. So completely be open in all their ideas, exchange their ideas, be the platform and the honestly platform to exchange ideas and bring this forward then.
Yeah, I think this is a great handover, because I think you're now no longer working for Daimler or Mercedes. I think for many years you are now leading as a managing director, Arena 2036. Can you please explain to us shortly what this is about?
Yes, the idea of Arena 2036 is started in 2012. There are some, I would say, big corporates said we have to change the thinking in research. So because the ecosystem, the world is changing, there's more complex projects necessary, not only bilateral projects, how we have multilateral projects, and how we can handle this together with the research area from the industry area. So, and then the idea was to start something to make this better. That was the first idea.
Okay.
And
So more to really implement this collaborative approach.
absolutely. So now, first, I think there was no idea how to solve it.
Okay.
So it was just the task to make something better than what's at the moment, and it should be good enough to be the next 10, 20 years the right way for the industry and the research area.
So it was basically being a startup by corporates.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and together with and there were the corporates said, okay, we have to implement and talk to the research area. So they decided to talk to this with the Stuttgart University as the first step. So they implemented the Stuttgart University. They liked this idea as well. And so a wonderful consortium started between the corporates and the university and the research area to find a new way for the future of research collaboration.
And can you name a few of your members? Because I think they are very known, right?
Yeah. They're the first members which started then as an association. That was the Mercedes-Benz, then Bosch, then BASF, and then the institutes like the university, the Fraunhofer, the DLR. So that was the
who is who.
Yeah.
Of the German industry.
The who is of German industry, and they say, let's start. And as well, the government also see that this is a wonderful idea, and they support us with a new frame. It's called a research campus. So this program started together with us, and so we are in the front, in the blueprint for this program frame. And so we have 9 research campus in Germany, which follow this idea how I bring together the industry and the research and be faster than in the past, be more how to handle the better complexity, get more innovative, and so. And we are one of these 9. We running this now the last 10 years successfully.
Great. Yeah, I could recall this because of our good business relationship. I think you also asked me to help on the MOU. And what I wanted to ask you now, I visited your campus. It's fantastic. It's very, let's say, inspiring, right, and open. But it started with a paper, right? And
started with an idea. And
started with an idea and a paper. And what were the biggest challenges at the beginning? Because I think lots of proposals are made in corporate, and not every corporate proposal is accepted. So how did you get this coalition really behind the idea?
Yeah, I think very important was also the help from the associated members on the beginning. So they said they are completely said we will do something new, so we help you on each part as a managing director. So I was not alone. That is very important. So we have our CEOs there which help us to bring this forward. We have director, the president from the university to bring this forward. So that was a really group which said, let us do this. Then also the government helps us on this side. So we have a complete good a team that says, let's do something great for the next future in this area.
And how did your R&D experience help you shape this vision to be impactful?
This helps a lot. So that's what I learned on Mercedes side over a lot of projects to bring research activities to the market. So and understand all the steps and which player have to be involved. So not only the researcher, not only the developer, not only the designer. So also the production people, and so the M&As. Everybody have to be at the right time implemented. That helps a lot for build up the Arena 2036.
And why, by the way, is it called Arena 2036 and not Arena 2030?
So it is sometimes it's strange how the names
Yes, yes.
get. So it is because in 2036 it's 150 years the anniversary from the invention of the automobile.
All right.
So the idea was let's name it like 2036
As a target.
As a target to be also innovative in the automobile production and the automobility sector in 2036.
And as I understand, you act as an innovation platform where big and also small companies, I think you're also active in the startup space, can innovate together. Just to give us some numbers, please. How many projects did you do over the last 10 years?
So let's start with the members. So we started, I would say, roundabout with 7 founding members.
Right.
Yes, and then so we grow over the last 10 years now to 65
this is big.
Partners
Right.
from the research area and the industry area, and a lot of startups as well. So we have the complete range from this very small startup up to the big corporates. In that, so we have international companies, international institutes, university, which are part of Arena 2036. And I would say that over 150 projects are running in the last 10 years. So we do not count every of this project, which is the outcome. So some we are monitoring, but not all, because it's not our goal to know everything. Our goal is to see that the mainstream is going forward.
Yeah.
So, and looking on the, I would say, on the advantage for the member, why they are coming to the arena, is because we help them to speed up in from the idea to the market. So transfer the idea over the concept phase into an area where they can go and develop it in their company for the market. And
do you also highlight potential innovation areas to your member?
Absolutely.
More like an innovation advisor?
Yes. So we do a lot of them now, but in the beginning it was that the idea that if you have an idea still in a big company, if you want to make that happen, you have to discuss this a lot with your hierarchies.
Right.
So then you have to get some people. You have to train them. Then you have to build up the laboratories and the hardware. Then to have to learn about it, and that takes a minimum of 2 years.
Exactly.
So, and in the arena it's different. So if you have an idea, we check if this in the ecosystem is available. Yeah, for example, if you want to test your product, if it works maybe as a use case or a business case with 5G, so you have not to build up and train all the people. So we have people from Nokia, Bell Labs, for example. We can completely immediately link them to the partner and say, let's try your idea. Let's make a small project, and if it's
get going fast.
And if it works, you have in 3-4 months. If it's still a good idea, you can grow with this project. It's a big project, and involve a lot of other companies and institutes and so on. If it's no good idea, so it's fail fast, and nobody knows that you did have a good idea or a bad idea.
So it's risk-free, but a big opportunity for the people to connect. And I think you have seen many innovations that we have not been publicly visible. But what was your best project ever, where you say this was really something great that we did?
That's difficult, because I'm very passionate in all these technologies, what we are doing, from having some new laser ideas to optimize some electric motors. But at the moment, it's very interesting. I'm very passionate on this new upcoming quantum technologies, which is where we here in Stuttgart very strong.
Yeah.
We have very fundamental research success stories here in Stuttgart, and so we are trying now to transfer this to the market.
Okay.
So we have started with some companies now, for example, startups as well, Quix Quantum, to start this, to bring this to a market, and optimize that, bring the partners together, that this is a new technology we should immediately bring to market, not waiting that somebody else do it.
Just wrapping up the leadership topic more on a general level. Yeah. I guess as a managing director, I know this also, sometimes you have to make tough decisions. And it's a learning for us. What would be a tough decision that really caused headaches for you in the past, where you say, okay, this was really not easy, and how did you deal with the situation?
Yeah, I think what was the most interesting thing for a managing director in a growing company is how to handle the growing with the people, because in some areas you need, I would say, a new half people. But you get only a full people, but it's paid only the half one on your budget. So how to handle the grow? Yeah, so this is
managing resources in light of your goals.
Yes,
that's the toughest thing for you.
That's the toughest thing, I think, on a growing startup. What we are also be.
Yeah. Okay. Now coming to another. So thank you for sharing this with us. Coming now to the topic of hydrogen mobility. I know that you're very interested in that, and you have started to engage in hydrogen much longer than me before. So when did you start hydrogen, Peter?
I think it was very on the beginning. So from where Mercedes also worked in the research area to test hydrogen engines, combustion engines, and then they stop hydrogen combustion engine and start the fuel cell activities. This was all in the research area, but I'm coming from the develop and design area, and so we started on this side with the battery electric vehicles, and during the merger with Chrysler, the responsibility of battery electric vehicle goes more to the Chrysler guys in this case, and so we are then started to think about it. Can we fill this gap with some technology which is growing up in the research area? Right. So we looked into the research area and see, the hydrogen guys are coming good forward with their ideas. Let's start to transform the hydrogen project, which is running in the research, into the development and design area. Yeah? So this transform was started. In this time, I stepped in this topic, and it was very interesting to see how this transition is going on in a big company that Daimler Chrysler was in this time.
So that what you're saying is you started more or less with active technology scouting,
yes,
and then found out that this might be something very interested to work on.
Yes.
And then you got engaged, and probably you have done good projects, and then you stayed with the topic all over the years, right?
Yeah, so in different situations, sometimes positions. So I was doing the hydrogen projects, and sometimes I was in the area to handle all the project leaders in this area. So there was we always bring together the hydrogen people and the battery and the hybrid people to work together, because that was the most synergies, and there was no fight between these technologies. So we put all the projects under one roof. That was a very clever decision.
Yeah.
So we saved a lot of money and bring these three technologies forward. And then in the end, round about when we met, I was mostly involved in creating cooperation worldwide to bring the hydrogen forward, bring the infrastructure for the battery electrical vehicles forward. So that was my role in this time frame where we met around between 2008 and 10.
So I also noticed, diving into the hydrogen economy, that many people who have worked for Mercedes are now in very impactful decisions in the positions in the hydrogen economy, because they are working globally still on it. So there was a lot of passion, I guess, in your team by that time, and people stayed on the topic, even sometimes outside of Mercedes.
Yes, I think that was the best training school, university you ever can have in this wonderful company in this time, because we learned from each other. It was a really good team. We helped each other. So also we helped each other over the border to the other companies. So we had very good relationships to our competition people, because it was all competitive, pre-market competitive, and
trying to help to grow the stuff.
Trying to help the technology, bring it forward. So it was a really good relationship and a lot of patient people. And that was the reason, I think, why most of the people are still involved in hydrogen. And I would say the training center was the Daimler Chrysler company.
So over the last, let's say, 5 years, we have seen the rise of battery electric vehicles in the markets, where fuel cell is still pushed through by the Japanese. What is your view on hydrogen mobility? Are you still passionate about this, or?
No, I always. As I looked on both technologies. So that was one of our philosophies. So battery and hydrogen cars are very close together on this technology. So mostly we said battery is more for the city and hydrogen is more for the long range. And that is still my opinion. So in both technology, we have not solved all the problems. On the battery electric vehicles, we're struggling on the infrastructure side, which is not, I would say, commercial ready.
On the battery?
On the battery side,
okay,
yes.
Okay.
So because all the charging stations are funded at the moment from the government or whatever.
Right.
So we will see how this. What's the number of the money which you have to pay when it's in a real business case. On the other side, on the hydrogen side, we're waiting for I would say. The time where the cost goes down completely on the tank side. I think on the fuel cell side, we make a lot of success. And on the tank side, it's coming now, also going forward. That's one of our projects, what we will also do on the Arena 2036, where we can talk later about this. But I think this is some of these two challenges we have in this area, and we have to convince the people that we do not know at the moment what's the right way. So, but we're going forward, and that's what I also see. I do not prefer one technology. I would say let's do every technology what's on the market. We have to perform. So we have to perform building new and better hydrogen cars and technology, better batteries and better combustion engines, because we need all of these technologies for the whole world. So I do not say that one is the best one. That's, I think, was always the wrong time.
I'm a bit frustrated, but obviously LinkedIn is not the only thing, but sometimes you have this hostile discussion, either or. And I think what you're advocating is more, let's have a 360 view on technology development and then bring costs down, because this is also what I think, that once the engineers have those technologies fully scaled, they can use it just like Lego and build the best application for the customers. And in some cases, it might be that a battery electric only makes sense, whereas in some cases, a combination of both technologies can make sense. What is your take on that?
Absolutely. That was our strategy to build up, I would say, bricks, technology bricks, and set it as the best way together how the customer and the market wants it. So I think this either or is the wrong decision, because first we are deliver everything from Germany what the customer on the world wants to have.
Yeah.
So if the customer in Africa wants to have the best combustion engine with the lowest CO2 emission, we have to deliver it because we can it. If somebody in big cities, Beijing, whatever, needs a battery electric vehicle or hydrogen vehicles, we have to deliver it. So I would not say this the one is the better one, the other one. So that was always not the strategy in the past of all the, I would say, passionate hydrogen leader as well.
I personally think that I've seen a system design from Stellantis Group, which is working on fuel cell delivery trucks. And as far as I am informed, is they pursue concepts like a fuel cell plug-in or a fuel cell range extender, where you would have, let's say, a bigger battery that can cover most of the drives you have. But when you go on longer drives, you can use the fuel cell. I think this is quite promising. And you mentioned this tank technology already. What are the areas where ARENA, which is this organization you are currently leading, is also advancing projects in the hydrogen space? Are there some projects going on?
Yes, because in the University of Stuttgart, we have a lot of experience with carbon fiber.
Okay.
Because of the aerospace area, what we are very strong in the University of Stuttgart. So using this knowledge, so we want to transfer this carbon knowledge more into the tanks to make this more, I would say, cheaper, bring the cost down, and make the tanks smarter. So we have also a lot of technology, how to bring technology into the tank to monitor what's going on in the tank during the lifetime. So there's also some institutes where I have great ideas to bring this forward, and we have a great partner in the ARENA 2036. It's the University of Swinburne in Melbourne and Sydney, which also have a lot of experience in carbon fiber, and a lot of very promising ideas for the storage ideas for the future. So this is the area where we can help from the ARENA 26 in this hydrogen.
What I recently came across with at BMW, that they are also now producing and planning for a serious production of their hydrogen vehicle, that they are not pursuing a tank technology which is like a cylinder, but more a box, because then you can use more or less the same chassis that you have for battery or for combustion engine, with more, let's say, a box type of hydrogen storage. But that's not the road you're pursuing.
I think it's my personal opinion is it's a cost issue. If you optimize your chassis for the technology, that's it's an amount of cost,
right?
Or you put a lot of I would say budget in creating some special tank ideas, which also is a high position of budget. Right. So you have to evaluate what's the better way. Right. Is it easier and faster to make some change in your chassis to put in the cylinder tanks, or put a lot of passion in building new tank technologies?
It's a trade-off.
Yes, so I would say to do both is good always. That's, I would say, the research heart in my body says yes, let's do both. But I would say first step, the cheaper one, it's my opinion, is changing the chassis to the technology.
All right. Okay. And you are working with startups also and those are integrated in your projects, right? And do you see projects where these startups together with big corporates make a real impact in technology advancements?
Yeah, the startup issue is very interesting. So we started 2015 to build one of the biggest B2B accelerator here in Europe.
What is it called?
It's Startup Autobahn,
Yes.
together with the University of Stuttgart and Mercedes-Benz. That was the founding members of this B2B initiatives. And then we get Plug and Play from California in as a partner to bring this forward, and then we continuously start to build this Startup Autobahn more and more. And it's now one of the biggest one of the world, and it's very successful in this area. And I think we need the startups in the Arena 2036 because if we have some new technologies or new ideas, which the big companies has no clue how to do this, and no institutes available. So we link from our Startup Autobahn or from the University of Stuttgart the startups into this project to grow with this project. So, and that helps the startups to grow because they have immediately a customer, and it helps the institutes to get more passion in this area, and helps the corporate to think a little bit more out of the box if they work together with the startups. So we have a win-win-win situation in all the areas, so that we are so passionate to work together with the startups. And but we have to be clear that startups help on the beginning to create new ideas, but it takes a long time to make that
technology robust,
or that you have seen really impact in the economy.
Right,
so that's the only thing what is not going fast enough for us, as I would say, Germany now. So, but there are some reasons because they get not enough money. Right. Here in Europe, that's totally different to them what we see in the US, for example. If you go with a good idea to investor, you get immediately a lot of money to start as a rocket. So here in Europe, it takes much longer to find the money to be a rocket. Yes.
Yeah. And so the economic environment is also quite challenging, both in Europe and in Germany. And I wonder whether this also has an impact on all the project, because I think corporates in that situation tend to focus on their core business where they make money and then cut off all the ideas they have, which might at the end of the day later make money. So what is your view currently on the environment for innovation and specifically for your arena?
I think it's a tough situation at the moment because it's a transition phase for the industry, and they have to get good cash flow at the moment. So they really are watching on their cash flow, and so they cut some good projects maybe from what we need for the future. Yeah. And that is, I would say, we have to be careful in this area that not too much projects are stopped, because we need it after the transition phase to restart with, I would say, a filled pipeline for the future.
Yeah, and I also, in the recent weeks, thought a lot about this slogan, Made in Germany. And I think that for many decades, this was innovation and quality. And that helped us scale internationally. But Made in China, for example, is also in the meantime innovation and quality, and not only, let's say, cheap products. And I think that the DNA of Germany, which is made in Germany, which we need to protect that. And we cannot protect this with a controlling mandate in innovation, right? So we need to work on these breakthrough ideas that can have a big impact to inspire the world again.
Yes, I think there are different things. The first, you are completely right. We are guarantee innovation and quality. We also exported this as, I would say, so we exported the best engineers
Yeah.
and students to China. They get innovated here in
Yeah.
Germany
Yeah.
and get learned what is quality.
Yeah.
So this was, I would say, a very good export to
Yeah.
China. So,
Right.
but now it comes back to us.
Yes.
And I think quality and I would say innovation is not anymore. I would say it's needed as a basic, but we need more.
Yeah.
So I think we have a lot of potential because we have a very good customer knowledge. So we know what the customer needs, and I think we should really use this, I would say, fundamental knowledge to improve our products in this way that we are really focused on that what the customer wants. I think this is a little advantage what we have against the rest of the world, and then we should really attack in the area of innovation.
Yeah.
And that is what I missing a little bit. So being not afraid about failures.
Yeah.
Say yes. Let's start a lot of stupid things. I would not say, but let's start a lot of good ideas and try which one our customer wants in the future.
I guess you also have a lot of connections to the so-called hidden champions, in particular in Baden-Württemberg, right? And I would expect that those family-owned business have this long-term view. Can you share some insights, or is this not something that is on your agenda so much?
No, I have a lot of talks to all these corporates, and I would say family business companies. So yes, the family-owned business have a longer range in, I would say, what they will develop and what they're doing, having in the research pipeline. The corporates at the moment, they're struggling at the moment. What is the best of our projects? What's still in the pipeline? What I would say, perform, and which I should I would say, store in the cupboard. And that I think needs a lot of energy. If you take this energy by sorting out your projects into getting performing these projects, I think that would be much more the better way than at the moment looking what I can
so putting
put out
the
of my
capacity on restructuring versus let's push through.
Absolutely.
Okay. And as you are very focused also on the automotive applications and the scaling of the technology that you collaborative built in the arena, I did a little bit of research, and I think 20 years ago, Germany was very famous for engineering. And also in my company here at Highfinder, many people are working here from other countries. And they always tell me they came to Germany because they want to learn engineering. And I think that nowadays you find companies like SpaceX, like Tesla, and even the big Chinese company, which seem to have used the time to develop exciting technologies that inspire the best engineers to go work there. Is this a trend that I made up here, or are you also seeing this a little bit?
I see a lot of students here in the Arena 2036 from all countries around the world. They are very interested to learn how the engineering goes in Germany. They are passionate and see how we push the processes to bring idea to a perfect market product. So I think still we are one of the leaders in this world how to do this. But it's still in some areas we can improve it. So especially from the research area into the market area. So there's a lot of improvement still. Then we have to I would say to confirm or no, to say to the companies, look, this is a new idea which comes out of their research. Yeah, don't be afraid of this. Start thinking about with fresh eyes on it now, because I think on these new technologies, or artificial intelligence or quantum topics, they're all afraid of this new technology, how I can handle this in my field. That takes very, very long to make them comfortable in this area. That is what we learned. And I think this is a disadvantage against, I would say, China or Japanese or whatever. They are much more open what is coming out of the research area and try to push it into the market.
This, what you're saying brings back the memory. I once visited a town hall where Dr. Zetsche was also giving a speech at Mercedes. And we were discussing, I think it was a panel, or not me, but on the panel there were people discussing when will be the breakthrough for electromobility. And by that time he said something about a catch-up. That there is this catch-up effect of these new technologies, that you press on it, but you know when it's coming out. And that was basically the reason why by that time he said we are a fast follower, but we are basically not the ones innovating and growing the market. And I think what you're saying is basically we have now leaders who are not afraid of taking big risks in the technology space, even not only digital, right? Absolutely. And they go and lead, and then the corporates who are a little bit hesitant and have more a fast follower strategy, it's hard to catch up.
Yes.
Is that the lessons learned over the last 10 years?
I think in the past it was for the big corporates always better to wait a little bit, to, I would say, to cover your brand, and waiting if the product and the quality is mature enough to save the brand when you bring it out. So because Mercedes says we bring only things to the market, to the customer, which are mature, that the customer is satisfied. Yes. So we will not bring the green banana to the customer. Yes. But this changed in the last, I would say, years, because if you see, for example, Tesla, they are completely get out with all what they have to the market, because it's a startup. They have nothing to lose. And they see risk is, I would say, is an opportunity. It's an opportunity in this way. So, and this is completely different now. But the big companies has not a process to be aggressive in this way. A startup has the process, because they have first to burn the money, and the goal is bring it to the market. However.
I once negotiated an M&A deal with a US company, and we were asking for a business case, and then the CEO said, we don't have a business case. We can write you one. We don't need one, right? Because they follow their intuition and say, we go for it, and we are willing to spend an amount of X money to see what comes out of this, but we go for it, right? That's the attitude these courageous leaders are taking.
Yeah, but it is. I think that is normal, because big companies has a responsibility. A responsibility for their owner, responsibility for their shareholder, for responsibility for the workers which are in their company are working. So they are not so risk. I would say open than a startup, because a startup's success is going into the risk area, and the big companies avoid the risk areas.
But I would counter that with they also have bigger pockets. So putting a billion at risk, right, might be a big chunk of money for all of us. But in the balance sheet of these global players, it does not play a big role, right? So, and if you put $1 billion on something which looks great, it is promising, you can do a lot.
Yes, absolutely right. The only thing what you have to think about is if you put this billion in this pocket, which maybe in the future changes everything, also your, I would say, a conventional business case, then you'll be a little bit I would say, not sure if you put $1 billion in this area.
Yeah. It's a trade-off.
Absolutely, yes.
But this is what we expect from thoughtful leadership, right?
Absolutely,
that they
yes.
can make this call, right?
Yes.
We might not, but there should be people who can make this call. So just to sum up a little bit on the hydrogen mobility part, what I get out of this, Peter, you're still optimistic about German technology. European technology, we have not enough to bring to the table. And the race for hydrogen and battery electric should be more seen in a combined view, that we see, let's advance both technologies and look for the applications the customers really want, and then build and deliver it. Is that a fair summary?
That's a fair summary. And I think that's what you said. It's not a race between these two technologies. It's a race for the new technologies.
Yeah. That is a perfect handover to a completely other topic in the hydrogen space, which we spoke about when you were coming in. What have you discovered? Please share this.
So I always, I would say, because I'm passionate on hydrogen still,
right.
I'm always looking and have contact to my network from the past, and I met a lot of my colleagues, and sometimes we talked about what can we do in the hydrogen area to bring this forward, or in the battery area as well. So and what I have seen in the last months is a thing what I have completely not seen over the last 20 years. Still with the top specialists of hydrogen. So that is the natural hydrogen and the white hydrogen, we call it.
Yes.
Because this is hydrogen which comes out of the earth.
Yeah.
And it started now in some years ago to make research in this area, and some institutes in Germany and in the world created a map. Mm-hmm. Where's the hydrogen located, the natural hydrogen? And so we in Germany have one, Europe have one, a lot of is in Africa and in US. So this completely, in my mind, if I have known this, I would say 10 or 15 years earlier, that would be great, but now it's done. So we have it today, the knowledge that the natural hydrogen is there. So I think it completely changed the geopolitical situation for the next 100 years.
If I understand it correctly, what you're saying is that there are big chunks and resources on natural hydrogen under the earth, just like oil and gas resources. And they can be accessed via the normal drilling process.
Absolutely, yes.
And do you have some numbers? How big is it? And what is the opportunity that we should that we can explore?
Yeah, I also started now in the last months when I heard this, because I was interested about this. Yes, what the institutes are writing, mm-hmm. and they're writing, for example, that this was what under Germany is laying around.
Right,
takes us for the next 200 years without oil and gas. So I think this is very interesting to look a little bit more directly in this area. Still, if this is only 10% of the truth, it's enough to change the geopolitical discussion, who has the energy and who not.
So I think that there are projects on the way that explore salt caverns as a storage for produced hydrogen, but if I understand you correct, we should be exploring the already stored hydrogen under the earth to drill it. And in the words of Mr. Trump, and he's very famous for saying, drill baby drill, but in our view so far, he means oil and gas, basically. But what we could do here in Europe as well is we can drill baby drill, but drill white hydrogen, and then decarbonize our entire industry from resources that we have in our country. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's a completely new situation.
Yes.
Because we worked, I would say, since my whole time on how we can make the hydrogen from greener to decarbonize the energy. And now with this natural hydrogen or white hydrogen, the problem is solved. And we will see how fast we can, I would say, drill and get this new energy into the economy.
And I think that the current discussion of last year was where Mr. Habeck introduced, let's say, this core network of for hydrogen transport, which is roughly 10 billion as a starting point connected with the European grid. People are questioning who will ever use it. But if you think a little bit forward, your idea that we would be able to explore and extract this natural hydrogen, we might be able to transport that with the investment now made into the infrastructure, right? And then we can really create something big for Europe and Germany out of it.
Absolutely. So everything will be changed.
Yeah.
The transition phase from the, I would say, steel and I would say the mobility, the chemistry industry. So we will see a completely change, and I will be very interested how long this take when we see it here as a, I would say, normal person.
Yeah, so I think that some companies are working on that, and this hydrogen map, we will try to find it and bring it here. But as we want to inspire leaders with this podcast, it might be really interesting to explore this opportunity. And I guess that how open you are, people can also contact you and discuss this with you as a starting point.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes.
So I'm very curious to see how this might develop. Yeah, and we might have, let's say, in 1 year time, a dedicated dialogue on this topic of natural hydrogen. We will see. And talking to our audience here, please share comments. What do you know about this opportunity? We would love to see this as well. Yeah, so I think that we are more or less closing in on our good talk here. And you started the conversation with that you are very passionate to see young people grow in the field of innovation. Being an innovator over more than 20 years yourself, what advice can you give to young professionals who are either inspired to work in the German automotive industry or in the fuel cell innovation area? What is the big advice that you can give what they should do?
They should always take this task what nobody wants to do.
Okay.
This is because in this area you learn the most.
Yeah.
You get the most, I would say, people which are behind you.
Yeah.
And you have mostly a success story.
I can agree on that because I took the hydrogen legal advice task because there was no other. And look where I'm now, right?
That's
so
perfect,
I'm an entrepreneur in the hydrogen space. So this is great. So do the stuff nobody else wants to do, and hard things pay off, right?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
More seriously, what type of skills do you think are needed to be really an innovator in this time?
Yeah, I think to be open on all technologies. So not, I would say, being a religious in one technology. So I think to be open, that helps you to see a lot of opportunities for your own way. So if you be, I would say, a battery guy and say, okay, I make batteries, so always be open in hydrogen and otherwise around. That helps, I think, a lot to bring your mind and your creativity forward.
Yeah. And one final question, how optimistic are you for the Stuttgart and German region to rise up with exciting innovations again? to inspire the world, what German engineers or people that work closely with associations like Arena 2036. What do you think?
I think I'm very positively because we have the best educated people here in the South or in Germany or in Europe.
Right.
And we have, I would say, the best ecosystem, the best infrastructure.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I think we have a lot of great universities where the whole world is coming and be studying here. So I think that shows that we are still in the front row. And I think the products where all the countries are buying in Germany are still very good, because if they are not good, they would not buy it here. And I think that's the reason why I'm very positively. And I think we need a little bit time for transition. Mm-hmm. But who else can make a transition than not the best, the leader, than what we are? Yes. So I think it's a good challenge that it's not going boring in this world.
Right.
To start a little bit to think about new ideas, new business models, new business. And yes, maybe somebody have really had edge in this time, but I think we overcome this in the next years and be again or still in the front. So because at the moment we are the third biggest deliverer on the world.
Yeah, so doing this stuff nobody else wants to do, and that is change, yes. Right? And we can come out strong here, and this is very inspiring. So, dear Peter, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for sharing all your insights. It was fascinating to see how all this works out in practice in this innovation powerhouse that you are leading. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Björn, for being here and having this interesting discussion with you.
Thank you very much.